Hell yeah.
Can you do the harder thing for the sake of the greater good? If you're going to impart one thing to your sons and your daughters as a father, it should be this.
So Andrew Wilson takes Matt Walsh head on by breaking down the limits of Christian ethics in a world where not everyone plays by the same rules. Andrew Wilson argues that men shouldn't blindly give their virtue, leadership, and resources away without discernment, especially when women or society don't hold up the same values. With bold clarity, Andrew Wilson questions Matt Walsh's soft stance and demands real answers on what it means to live out masculinity with wisdom, not just duty.
So he's talking about the hierarchy of duties in men, right? However, there's no obligation for men to fulfill this higher duty of moving themselves away from base instincts and moving themselves into the maturation of assisting women at their expense, if women are not also moving towards the same virtues and duty. So if it's the case that one whole half of society is not encompassing those same virtues, what obligation do you have to do so? And this is the question that Matt will stumble on over and over and over again, and most people on my side will as well.
Right. So what's the answer then? Because I think that he does make a good point that in terms of what is manly and masculine, being, if you're materialist and everything that you do constantly goes inwards, then it sort of almost eats away at you. But if you are taking your masculine virtues and if you're expressing them outwards and towards family and community and these sorts of things, then I think that's a much more masculine thing because it sort of expands endlessly.
Yeah, but in the encompassment of that masculinity, does that mean that you give your resources to people who are undeserving of them?
Sometimes, undeserving is probably the key word there. Yeah. People in need maybe, but undeserving is the key word, probably not, no.
Yeah, but who determines that people in need deserve it? You, the person who has the resources, gets to make that determination, right?
Yeah.
In other words, you don't have, Jake, a duty to give to people who are in need, do you?
Well, as a Christian, you have some sort of a duty to tithe, right?
Sure, but isn't that supposed to be used responsibly towards people you think deserve to have that coming towards them, or in some way you're dispensing the charity towards a person because you think that they can do good with it? You wouldn't dispense charity to somebody you thought was going to do bad with it, right? Like you're not going to give a bum $20 to go buy booze, are you?
No.
Yeah.
So
you don't.
I think
so
there
you
is
don't.
a duty there. There is a duty there, though.
Yeah, maybe, but
yeah.
But who gets to determine when it's fulfilled?
You do, yeah.
Yeah, you do, right? So that's the case that the red pill is making here. Who gets to make the determination as to which women are deserving of these characteristics and virtues and are deserving of the resources? It's not the women that get to determine that. It's us who gets to determine that. And I think that is one of the key parts that's been missing from the Christian ethics side.
So, but what is actually the counter argument here? What should Matt Walsh say in regards to this? So he's saying that it's the most
to take over.
Thing.
What do you mean? Yeah, okay. The same thing we've always been needing to do. You take the it over. You tell Christians it's perfectly acceptable to boycott. It's perfectly acceptable for you to discriminate against people who don't share your values. Nepotism's totally acceptable. The fact that you can flood the polls and get people with your values in office and they're going to be discriminatory towards those who don't have your values is totally fine. That's the answer. Fuck 'em. The answer is to take that shit over. And then you institute your force of will the same way the opposition has been for the good of everybody. This whole black pill, we're just going to give the fuck up. That. Yeah, you're rolling over for shit. Take that shit over. You take it over.
I feel like running through a wall right now.
Hell yeah.
Can you do the harder thing for the sake of the greater good? If you're going to impart one thing to your sons and your daughters as a father, it should be this. Teaching them how to do the harder thing for the greater good. And if you can't, or if you won't, then you aren't manly.
Okay, this part from Matt Walsh definitely sounds good. Real emotional, real fired up. But here's the thing. Andrew Wilson actually thinks through the hard thing, not just yells about it. That's the difference. Matt Walsh is always talking about duty and sacrifice like it's some automatic thing men have to do. But Andrew Wilson asks the smarter question. who deserves that sacrifice. Without that part, all that do the harder thing stuff just sounds like shouting into the void. Andrew Wilson is about clarity and wisdom, not just emotion. That's what sets Andrew Wilson apart from Matt Walsh big time in this moment.
See, I disagree with that
And
too.
no matter how much.
See, I agree that you should teach people, especially men, that they often will have to embody a harder thing in life for greater virtue. That's not with dispute. But with wisdom, you find something out, right? Is that half the time you don't have to engage at all. Half the time you don't even have to insert to watch it fall. Right. And that's the easiest path, in fact, in many cases. So what I would say is this: you want to impart the greatest virtue in a boy, right? The greatest virtue to teach him is wisdom. That's the greatest pathway to virtue, is wisdom, is knowing when not to act. It's just as important as knowing when. So there's something maybe your fighting instructor told you at some point, Jake. Knowing when not to fight is just as important as knowing how.
That's the art of war. Sun Tzu. You win the battle without firing a gun or without
firing a shot.
Yeah.
How much money you have or how much you can bench press. Doesn't matter. Now, Tate says that men will be men, and yes, that's true, but will they be good men? Will they be men of virtue and fidelity and discipline? They can be if they pursue the higher thing. In a similar way, I might say that many men will father children. That's easy to do. But will they be fathers?
But you notice that baked into this, he's not telling you why that's the higher thing to do. Only that it is.
Yeah,
and that's the problem, right? Is like, you can't just make the statement that it is the higher virtue. You have to state why it's the higher virtue. And actually, I can help Matt's argument out a little bit here. The determination of men versus women's virtues. You can just look at it this way. It's really simple. If you key in the absence of a single virtue for an entire sex and look at the kind of conceptual effects on society, which are detrimental, right? We can then associate which are masculine virtues and which are feminine virtues and which are higher and which are lower. Here's an example of this. If men tomorrow, all of them, stop doing their job of defending the population, there's no population. It's gone. So idealism like courage as a virtue, things like this, have to be masculine, because if women give up on the duty of defending the nation, who gives a shit? It's not that important, right? Could it have a detrimental effect? Yes. But the way that you would associate that that's a masculine versus feminine virtue is look at the effects when one sex drops that virtue, and then you'll see why it's associated with one over the other. So the reason you should calibrate towards the higher virtues, these would be the things which would have the most compelling effect around everybody in society, if you don't encompass them, would be these keynote masculine virtues. And that's why you should move towards them, because if everybody in society does, you're going to have a way better society. So you can't just make the assertion, but you can show why. We have good reasons for this.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, especially when you're looking at masculine virtues and why we need to follow them and these sorts of things. Because when you look at the red pill argument and when you look at the black pill argument, it is actually quite compelling, because there are a lot of aspects of the modern world which a young man might look around and say, well, things kind of look like they're collapsing around me. It seems as though the game is rigged against me. Why do I need to embody these virtues? Like, what are these virtues that you're talking about here, Matt Walsh, and why is that important for me? Why don't I just grab the bag and run, sort of thing? So there needs to be
to address, there's a chatter who's spurging out because I spend my wife's paycheck on guns, right? I thought you rejected materialism, Andrew. Rejection of materialism doesn't say that you can't have material things or even value material things, but that you shouldn't only value those things. And in the hierarchy, they're at the lesser end of valuing the things which are spiritual. So for instance, would I give up my wife or my guns first, stupid? Which is the answer to that question, you idiot? Which is the answer? Because if the answer, you dumb is that I would give up the guns before the wife, then I don't value the materialism, right, dummy? And these people like you, are why it is that people like me make the kind of money that so I can buy that many guns, by the way. It's because of people like you. Without stupid like you, I would never be in the position of being able to do what I do. And for that, I thank you.
Thank you, sir.
They have children.
And
Will
for
they
that, we
raise them?
salute you.
That's the hard part. Now, I keep talking about hardship and difficulty, rightly so. But I don't want to make it sound like being a faithful husband and father is nothing but misery and drudgery, and all you can do is just grit your teeth and bear it.
This is another important point coming up here, I think, from Matt Walsh, in the sense that this is often spoken about from the common denominator of that, well, there's misery everywhere, and how are we going to sort of deal with our misery? It's hard to sort of imagine the real positives of it until you have it, I guess. People say that you don't know what it's like to be a father until you hold your baby. You don't know what it's like to be married until you've been married for 10 years and these sorts of things. I don't think I could really imagine that or like really visualize the joy of it, if that makes sense.
Well, maybe not in its fullest capacity, but I think you can imagine it in some sense, Jake. So for instance, you deeply loved your father.
Yeah.
And you deeply love your mother. Right. So how is it that it would be like impossible for people to envision how their parents must feel the opposite direction? You know, like you fought, I'm sure, with your father, you fought, I'm sure, with your mother, fought with your siblings, but you wouldn't replace any of that, right?
Yeah, see, this is the kind of thing Andrew Wilson would never just gloss over. Like Andrew Wilson would actually dig into how those early relationships shape your view of sacrifice, trust, and what people deserve from you. Matt Walsh, on the other hand, just kind of name drops the idea without really unpacking it. That's why Andrew Wilson stands out. He doesn't just say the obvious stuff, he explains why it matters. And yeah, that makes a big difference when we're talking about things like duty, masculinity, and who you give your best to.
No.
So how could that be any different with your own child?
I guess it's the responsibility and the fact that you made that person. You have this, responsibility over their life and their well-being. Like I've never had any responsibility over anyone but myself. So
yeah, I mean, that's not true though. Don't you have an obligation to your brothers?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some responsibility which is baked in there between all of you as well. So it's like, look, when it comes to family dynamics, while you might not be able to envision or experience the full joy of having your own children yet, I think that you can still envision what it must be like as you had parents yourself and siblings yourself, right?
All right, let's watch a little bit more of this. And then I do want to cover, I know we're getting a bit over time, but I do want to cover a little bit of the tweets between Myron and Matt, and then Hillary Crowder's tone deaf.
You guys can go as long as you want.
How are you going for time, Andrew?
Yeah, we can go for a little bit longer. We were, yesterday was kind of a cluster, so we kind of cut the show a little bit early, like maybe 5 minutes early. And today it's just kind of it's kind of a makeup day. We're just kind of making everything up.
Why did that sound so gay?
Because it's Lumberg from Office Space.
It's a makeup day.
It's kind of
that sounds so gay.
Because Lumberg from Office Space sounded kind of gay.
I'm not wearing makeup, Andrew.
Yeah,
sure, mystery.
That's not the case. I love being married. I love being a dad. It's a lot of fun much of the time. It's a source of great joy. That's what happens when you simply let go of your childish need to put your own immediate gratification before anything and everything all the time.
Now, this bit I can kind of understand because I did see the actual joy that my dad had when we were growing up and kicking the footy, playing sports. He just loved having 3 boys. It was just the center of his existence was his 3 boys, these sorts of things. Now, that would be fun. And maybe that would be something to sort of add into the messaging as well, I guess, when you're talking to young guys. Like, it's actually fun and cool having kids. It's a fun thing,
Can I ask you a question, Jake?
Yeah.
Why is it that chatters think that me going off of them isn't like 10% of the reason that people tune into my shows? Because they just love watching me rip you to shreds. I don't know why they think. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, agreed.
You discover an ability to do the harder thing and actually enjoy it. The way that guys like Tate describe marriage makes it seem like, we're living in entirely different universes, and perhaps we are. Because he describes marriage like it's a labor camp. A man is imprisoned by his controlling, ungrateful, promiscuous wife who runs out to cheat on him as soon as he leaves for work in the morning. He makes it seem, or outright claims, that it's essentially impossible for a man to find a good, faithful woman who will bear his children.
See, this is all bullshit. This pisses me off because it's a straw man. And it's the totality of a straw man, which annoys me. It's like, look, I believe that Matt is correct, that Andrew Tate is wrong on this, but I'm not going to straw man his position because that's not how you beat that position. You beat it by steel manning it, and then you win after it's been after you've steel manned the position. So what Tate says is not that there's an impossibility that you'll ever find a good wife. He doesn't say that at all. He just says it's improbable in modernity, when you have everything going against you, for women to not have incentives to both leave you, screw you over, and cause serious and significant damage to you with very little that you can do to mitigate those effects. And so you should look for alternative routes to marriage, which is a reasoned position. I don't know why these guys keep pretending that that's not a reasoned position, because it is. It's a reasoned position. Can you beat it with better reasoning? Yes, but you can't straw man this shit, or you lose immediately.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely is a reasoned position, and a lot of the stats do favor that these days in terms of divorce rates and these types of things as well.
Yeah, he's got good points on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, the fun thing here is like, and this is all female influence in the space of women getting upset by anything Tate says, and then right-wing creators get pushed back from their stupid female audiences and think they got to placate them, right? I have no such inhibitions. You bitches can get the out of my chat tomorrow. I don't give a shit what you think about what I'm saying, because what I'm saying is true. You cannot steelman this guy's position, and you cannot take away from Andrew Tate that a lot of the risks that he's talking about, and a lot of the things that he's talking about, and the unique challenges which are faced by this generation, are not things which are being addressed for them. They're not. They're just objectively not. And because of that, unless you can beat Tate in the realm of ideas that people can gravitate towards, he's going to beat your ass. He's going to beat your ass on every single front, maybe physically, mentally, everything in between. You have to be prepared for that. And I get frustrated when these guys strawman the position, because you don't need to. You can beat it legitimately.
By the end of this clip, it's pretty clear. Andrew Wilson isn't just challenging Matt Walsh. He's offering something stronger: wisdom, discernment, purpose. Andrew Wilson isn't afraid to speak the hard truth, even if it means calling out Matt Walsh's surface-level answers. This debate is more than just talk. It's a wake-up call for men to think deeper and lead smarter.